you can see and hear me well, and I hope that you do. Thank you. Okay, so for those who have just joined us, I remind you some technical details. The recordings of the conference will be absolutely free, but available about the middle of September, when our new Pro English online website is finished and ready to be used. So the recordings will be available, but a little bit later. So if some topic is urgent and hot for you, please try to stay with us online today and watch it online. Also, about the contest. So to get one of the prizes we have today, and this is a Teaching Teams Weekend by me, or English book club set by Ekaterina Konan, you have to do the following. You have to take a photo connected with our Pro English online conference and share it on VK with the hashtag Pro English. You can see an example at the top of our Pro English online community page on VK. So you're asking what can it be? So it can be a selfie of you watching our conference, a screenshot of our conference, or a photo of your desk with your cup of coffee and your notebook and your pen making notes. So anything connected to this CPD event, so to you watching our conference. You share it with the hashtag on your personal VK page, and by the end of the day, we take a look at all the hashtagged photos and choose two most interesting ones. As to the certificate of participation, I'm posting a link right now into the chat box, and I will post a few more later today. Please download the certificate right at once, because by the end of the conference, all the links will expire. The certificates are only for our online viewers today. So to download the certificate, you have to go to the page and type your name and surname in Latin letters in English, and click on the download button, and you will get a certificate of participation in our today's conference. All right, and now I'm happy to welcome our second speaker, and this is Olya Sergeyeva. Olya is an English teacher, CELTA trainer, and local Delta tutor based in St. Petersburg, and her qualifications include CELTA, Delta, and CPE. And she also has a British Council Iltons nomination for her absolutely amazing website, tubequiz.com, where you can create quizzes from YouTube videos in just a few clicks. And I will post a link to the website into the chat box now. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. You will love it, I'm absolutely sure. Okay, and now I'm switching off, and over to you, Olya.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Just a second. Right. Hello again. Nope. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you type a plus if you can? Fantastic. Great. So, hello, everybody. My name is Olya, as Katerina said. I'm really happy to be part of this event today. And thanks so much for joining. I was really blown away by Marina's talk. Really looking forward to trying some of her ideas with my daughter. My own background and experience is quite different from hers. I mostly teach adults, so just a show of hand. Can you type whether you teach adults, teens, or young learners, just to see what type of audience we have. Okay, right. Young learners, adults. Right. So the ideas here are mostly applicable, or at least tested out with adults and teens. I'm not sure about young learners. We will see. Maybe you will share ideas about young learners, whether this is applicable or not. So, I teach in company currently. This is adult learners, and they come in all sizes and shapes, so to say. So there are some amazing people who I can't believe that such people exist. For example, last time, so someone amazed me was a course started at the end of October, and this was a B1 course. And after the first lesson, my student came up to me and said, "Okay, so I realized this is a B1 course and it's supposed to last 6 months, but I really have to take English assessment at the beginning of December, and I have to show B2 level." And I just stared at him and just thought, okay, this is impossible. But amazingly, that person did it. And when he took his assessment in a month and a half, he really showed that level. And so there are motivated people like that. And there are also people who will not show up in class. And so it's a very mixed lot. And basically, I've been thinking for a very long time how to, so what the successful learners do, and what is their kind of secret sauce, and whether as a teacher I can help other learners who are less than motivated to become as successful. So before we move on, can you think back to some learner who really made you happy as a teacher, and some who achieved something really great for their context and their situation? And can you think of the factors that were at play? So why were they so successful? And think about it and type in the chat box. Was it their talent? Was it something that they did? Okay, so Oksana, probably you mean that they were noticing English around them. Okay, motivation. Okay, noticing English in real life. Regular study. Emotional connection with the language, right? Hardworking. Yeah, a desire to travel, some kind of goal, right? Self-motivation. Right, so a lot of what you're saying really strikes a chord with me. And in our company, actually, every time a course finishes, we sit down with the teacher, we look at the assessment results, look at who achieved like full progress, who stayed on their level, and really think about the factors that were at play. And a lot of what you're writing is actually what we have been noticing. And we've been noticing that people who achieve like, at least whole level improvement kind of have the same profile. We see the same things over and over and over again. And this is, as some of you said, like, yeah, goals. They normally have some specific reason why they're trying to get to the next level. They also, more often than not, autonomous. By that I mean these are probably the people who are very likely to have some kind of app on their phone, and they study when they have some time. They are likely to listen and watch films. In short, they do a lot out of class. And also, I've been reading quite a lot about so-called like good language learners, and research also shows that one very important thing is so-called study strategies. So things like, do you use dictionaries or not? How do you record your lectures? How do you timetable your studies, and so on? So these kind of these are three things that seem to be very important. And again, as a teacher, I've been wondering, so whether I can help do some kind of magic teaching trick to help some of the learners who aren't there yet to acquire some of these successful traits and get better results. So basically, when we think about how to help learners become more successful in language teaching, there are two questions to think about. Like, first, what do I need to teach them? For example, is there some kind of magic study strategy that all successful learners do? Is there some kind of activity that is common to all, I don't know, polyglots? Is there some kind of resource that's really, really, really useful and that I really should share with my learners? So what should I teach them? And the second question is like, how should I approach it? Do I just walk into the classroom the first day, tell them, okay, here are possible things you can do and forget about it? Or is there some other approach I can take? So how do I structure it and how do I build it into my course? So two questions. Let's look at first at how. So we've been trying to do this, like the whole team of English teachers in our school have been trying to help learners become more successful. And we about 2 years ago, we started an experiment, and we called it so-called needs analysis. But this needs analysis didn't mean that we walked into the classroom and asked the learners, okay, what do you want? It was the primary reason was to really help them realize what they need to achieve by the end of the course. So, for example, if I had a B1 group, and their goal was to get to B2, for a lot of learners, this doesn't actually say anything. So it's like an abstract concept, and when you ask them, like, what does it mean, they normally just say, okay, stop making mistakes in tenses and learn a lot of words. So this is the extent to which they understand what achieving B2 actually means. So what we started doing was we recorded examples of other learners at different levels, like B1 learner, B2 learner, C1 learner. And at the beginning of a course, the first thing we started doing was to a B1 group play the recording of a B2 learner. So give them an idea of where they're going to get by the end of the course, and then analyze the transcript and really help them understand what it means to be at B2 level. And we try to point out things that you will see in things like Cambridge exams criteria, IELTS criteria. So we pointed out, for example, linkers that B2 learners use, or interactive strategies, how they use small words like yeah, absolutely, exactly, and ask for opinion and keep the conversation going and friendly. So we looked at things like collocations, so lexes that learners can already understand and don't necessarily see the value of learning this, but looking at it in a transcript of a B2 learner kind of helped us to make them appreciate more the kinds of things that we would be studying. And the next thing that the learners did was they pre-recorded an interview of themselves, and after they analyzed B2 learner, then they listened to their own recording, analyzed their own recording, and try to identify their weaknesses and their strengths. And this was kind of a bold experiment, because in order to run those interviews, we actually had to cancel some of the classes. And after this self-analysis process, we also canceled some classes and ran some one-to-one interviews with the learners, where we helped them set goals for the course and shared some resources that they could be using to work on their weaknesses. And so this experiment, and after they did it, over the next 6 or 9 months, what they did next was we for almost every group we normally have a Google spreadsheet where we organize links and resources. And Google spreadsheet is kind of a very similar to Excel, but it's collaboratively edited, and it's different from Google Docs in that it has a lot of different tabs here. So if you look at the bottom here, you will see that there are organized in different tabs, a tab for each learner in the group, and they started logging their progress. So so this is one example of a learner's work, and this is another example. So this experiment ran for about 9 months, and then we started collecting results. And what the teachers saw was that there were like really pluses and really bad minuses, so to say. So the positive aspects were that after doing this needs analysis, the teachers noticed that the learners became really more responsive to everything that was going on in class, and even if their prior experience told them that English is grammar plus words, they became a lot more responsive to studying things like collocation, functional language, and so on. So another thing was that we saw that the number of motivated and successful learners definitely increased, like the proportion. And some of these learning logs that they produced were really mind-blowing. But there was a big but, and the problem was that a lot of the learners actually stopped updating their logs about halfway through the course, and even though the teachers actually followed up on this work and got them to discuss it in class on a regular basis, and we saw that we have it's not perfect, and we need to continue working on it. So the next thing that we did was we continued experiments, and this time we tried out different approaches, trying to get the learners to do things like out of the course book or outside of the course book. And so here are 4 examples of tasks that some of us would give to our groups. Can you look at the tasks and type the number? Which of these do you think was the most successful? Which of these the learners didn't ignore and actually did and enjoyed? Just the number. Okay. So yeah, 4 seems to be the favorite. Why do you think 4? So why would 4 be a good type of task? What makes it good? Limited choice. Yeah. Yeah. So it is still autonomy because it provides learners with a choice, and again, there is research that shows that where there is choice, there is a sense of ownership, right? So there is a step towards autonomy, but it is more successful, for example, in number 3, because in number 3, learners feel overwhelmed, and I don't know, there is such an expression called analysis paralysis. This is probably something that they were experiencing, right? And so one of the things that we one of the conclusions that we arrived at was that at least with the learners who are not prepared to step outside the classroom and really absorb the language, we really have to take baby steps, like baby steps autonomy, and really give limited choices. Number two, we also tried number two, and we produced a list of resources and tasks. For example, if you want to improve your grammar accuracy, here are the types of activities you can try autonomously. If you want to improve your fluency, here is what you can try. And this again produced mixed results, because when the learners saw this document, they were really excited, and the feedback was really, really positive. But again, after time, after some time passed, I noticed that I really have to try things out with them in class. So again, so there is this concept of scaffolding. So either by providing a limited choice, or by modeling and trying things out in class, and really thinking, where in my course will I give them the chance to experience the activities that I want them to try to do. So, and there is so just to summarize, there is this big concept of scaffolding, which is very important. And another concept here is, if you look at number 3 and 4, they could be better than 1 and 2, because there is an element of, a social element to it. Here they do something at home, they come to class, and their efforts get acknowledged. This is not true of everyone, but for a lot of people, this is important, to get your efforts recognized, even if you're doing something autonomously and you have the sense of ownership. It's difficult to do this completely alone in isolation. You need to have your effort recognized. This is also something that that we need to think about as teachers. And in a few moments, we will see how Google Sheets help me give the learners that feeling that their efforts are recognized. And coming back to the question of what I need to teach the learners, so are there magic tricks, maybe, or very important resources that I need to tell them about? So this is a tricky question, because there is extensive literature on learning strategies, and the moment you start reading it, you realize that it is completely overwhelming, and there is just too much. There is just one list of strategies that is 200 items long, and it's completely unrealistic to show even a fraction of that to the learners. So, but I can recommend this particular book. It has a chapter on strategies for vocabulary learning, and I like this book because I think it's really well structured, and each chapter starts with the author's personal experiences with the topic. For example, study strategies. Then he overviews a number of sources and quite a bit of research. And then he finishes the chapter with a very short and concise section where he gives some specific teaching ideas and suggestions based on this research. So it's kind of multi-layered. So if you just want the teaching ideas, they're very easy to locate. If you want to dig into the sources, they're also there, and all the links are there. So really, really nice book. And so what Fools says in his book is that the best strategy just does not exist. So if we look at successful learners and the learners who, for example, stagnate, the difference is not in the kinds of activities they do. The difference is that successful learners have a big range of strategies, and they use them consistently. And the less successful learners kind of don't have these strategies. And I think as teachers, this is obvious. We know that. So on a more concrete level, a successful learner would have a vocabulary notebook, would carry it around and would regularly revise, right? And a less successful learner doesn't even have a notebook, right? So, and this kind of exemplifies all the whole concept of using strategies and not using strategies. And the teaching suggestion that FOSS makes is that we says that different strategies and different resources will appeal to different people. And if you take two different successful learners, they have completely different sets of strategies. And then as a teacher, what I can do is to expose them to a very wide range of resources and a wide range of strategies. So maybe not the ones that worked for me, but a wider range, because different things will appeal to different people. And one thing that was really interesting for me was that he singled out exactly one thing exactly one strategy that he feels has to be taught to everyone, and this is that vocabulary is learned through retrieval. And this really again struck a chord with me, because very often on the bus I see learners who are reading vocabulary lists, and they're just staring at the notebook and they're just reading them. And every time I see that, I really have to restrain myself from coming up to the person and saying, "Come on, cover the page and try to recall some of these here." So there are still things that are proven to work better than others. So, for example, vocabulary retrieval. But basically, this list here on the slide now exemplifies so not exemplifies. So my whole approach now to teaching strategies is very similar to this. And basically, in the past, when I taught some kind of topic for homework, I would give a task from, I don't know, a grammar book, or something from the practice file at the end of the book. So basically, some material that is kind of ideally fitted to the material that I presented in class, right? And that and I was gonna check that, mark that homework, or go through it in class. Now I always have at the back of my head that I need to use every opportunity to expose the learners to activity types and to resources that have the potential to be used independently of the teacher. So what I mean by that is, this was a suggestion of a colleague. For example, I teach a grammar topic, and so whenever he teaches a grammar topic, he always goes on YouTube and finds a good video about the same topic and shares it with the learners, not because he thinks that he did a very poor job explaining, but because they might like the video, they might start watching other videos on the same channel, and this is an opportunity to make them more autonomous. And this kind of applies to everything now. In terms of homework that I said, I really try to model the types of things that a successful learner would do. So if I actually do set that homework from the back of the book, I give the learners the key, because a successful and efficient learner would actually do the task, check their answers with the key, formulate questions, and come to class with the questions, right? This is the kind of thing I'm trying to achieve. So let's look a little bit at the practicality, the practical aspect of it. So here is what it looks like. So what our work looks like in practice. So basically, every group has their own Google spreadsheet, and as I said, it is collaboratively edited, and we have tabs for different types of activities. And this thing is a homework tab, and I first saw it in another. So one of my colleagues came up with this, and what she was doing was Google Spreadsheet allows you to lock some of the tabs, and by this I mean the learners can still edit other tabs in the document, but and they can view this one, but they can't edit it. And what she was doing was she was organizing all the homework that she said in this tab. At the beginning of every class, she marked. She used colors to mark who has done it, but the students couldn't edit it. So I loved her idea because I think it's like really visually appealing, and it's a great way for the learners to see their progress and how they're doing. I tweaked it a bit. My tab is not locked. Whenever I set some homework, you can see that I type everything in this tab. And when they have done some part of this homework, they go and mark it as complete themselves. And there are multiple reasons why I do this. First, because kind of this models again the behavior of successful learner, and basically there is also research into motivation, and it says that what motivates us is achieving goals, and the goals don't have to be I don't know, graduating from Harvard. This is just kind of thing that where you can put a tick, right? Even if you go to the if you go shopping and you have a shopping list and you cross things out of the list, then you still have this kind of good feeling that you've just achieved something. And so it's this feeling is caused by a chemical called dopamine, and it's released when you achieve something or when you see that you're going to achieve something, right? And basically here it really capitalizes on that. So the learners have like really sizable chunks that they can do, and each time they complete one of them, they actually go and have the satisfaction of putting a tick. So this is one thing, but maybe not even the most important thing. The most important thing is that for me, this was a really paradigm shift, because for the first maybe 5 years of my teaching, I never set any homework that I couldn't check, because I felt that, okay, so if I ask, I asked the learners to do it, but it was always optional. Like, check out this resource, have a look at this fantastic site. I never said, okay, your homework is to go to this resource and do something, and just have no ways of holding the learners accountable, because I kind of realized that half of them are not going to do it, and it kind of sets a bad precedent, right? But here, I can really I rely on self-report, and I can really start asking the learners to do things that a successful learner would probably do, and that I can't really go and check just because they're going to check themselves, put that tick themselves. So just to give you some examples, so one of the things that I always setting as homework is revise the language that we dealt with in class, because this is just a good habit here, and I can't check it, but I can see that here again I rely on self-report, and 7 people did it, 3 didn't. So another thing that from the same lesson, in that lesson we studied some a monologue. I don't really remember what time. I think they were talking about technologies that they like and dislike, and for homework, I didn't want to ask them to record it because this would because I would have to mark it, and it was unrealistic at the time, and I wouldn't be able to revise it with the learners next lesson. But I still asked them to mentally rehearse this monologue a few times. And again, a lot of learners actually say that they do this a lot. Someone even coined a term like shower conversations. This is a kind of conversation in English that you have with yourself in the shower, right? And here, again, I kind of felt that I have to scaffold my learners by explicitly setting this task for them. I can't possibly check that they've done it, but they've checked themselves, right? And you can see here that, again, half of the group did it, half of the group didn't do it. That's all right. Here, at least I kind of provided them with a structure and with the opportunity. Another thing that I started doing was, so this is so-called success criteria. If you're interested in this concept, here is a talk that I really recommend. It's by Sylvana Richardson, who is the head of teacher training at Bell in Cambridge. And in her IATEFL talk, she talked about how in her school they approach speaking and writing tasks. And she actually drew on research that says that for learners, it's really important to have criteria that show them whether the task has been done or successfully or not. So something really specific, because if I just told them present continuous and vocabulary for clothes, and I want them to revise this by describing a picture, and I just set the task of describe a picture, people will really approach it in different ways. So some learners are really responsible, and they will try and pack their speech like full of new language. Some learners will actually do this at their current level of English, and it's not clear from the formulation of the task how why one performance is better than the other. But when you negotiate, when you discuss with the learners what a successful, what a good response would involve, it becomes a lot more specific and easier to actually comprehend, and also a lot more motivating, right? So because again, dopamine is released when we achieve goals, right? So, and this is a specific goal. And I've been doing this for actually a long time, right? And for example, when I teach, I don't know, emailing, I would set homework task where they would have to write an email, and at the bottom there would be a checklist, right? So, and it would say, yeah, I've used the emailing expressions that we've studied in this module, I've used such and such grammar, and I've proofread my work. And some learners handed in their emails with the checklist completed. A lot of them kind of saw it as an add-on to the task that they could safely ignore, and so kind of wasn't really working for me. And now again with the Google Doc, I've made these checklists with success criteria kind of the central piece of the task, right? So this is the kind of thing that they mark when they mark whether they've done it or not. And because this is they're so used to using this resource to mark whether they've done homework or not, this is at the focus of their attention. And you can see here that that they actually reflect on their performance. And one of the one of the learners actually realized that she rehearsed it, she did not use the functional language, and this is reflected in her self-analysis. So And another thing that I can do with this spreadsheet is, again, set homework with external resources, which provide interactive quizzes and don't provide any way for the teacher to see how the learners did. Again, I was very wary of doing this previously, again, because I couldn't see how I could track that, right? And just asking at the beginning of the class, like, put up your hand if you did it. It's not entirely convincing, really. And here again, it just turned into a list of sizable chunks that the learners can actually track. I can see that some of them did everything, some of them did part of the work, and they have the satisfaction of being held accountable. And one of the things that I incorporate here is there are some resources that I really want the learners to try out. And so one of them is Quizlet. Can you type a plus if you use Quizlet with your learners, and a question mark if you heard about it and don't use it, and a minus if you haven't heard about it. Okay, lots of pluses. Okay, for the benefit of those who haven't heard about it, so really quickly, this is a question and answer site. So you can see here questions on the right and answers on the left, and this is a set of questions and answers that allow my learners to revise a specific set of functional expressions. And so at the top here, you will see that the service can generate a variety of task types and activity types that so they are automatically generated out of the questions and answers that I've created. And basically, learners can study them with like flashcards, like looking at the questions, mentally recalling the answers and flipping the flashcard and checking. There is an interactive test option. There are some games that are where they're raised to type the answer. And this resource is like insanely popular. I think it has 300 million active users. And this is one of the resources that I feel is very important and really helps learn vocabulary. So this is, again, one of the resources that I assign for homework. And again, this is one of the resources that doesn't really, unless you have a paid account, doesn't really provide you with full statistics. But one thing that I noticed, and this comes back to the question of scaffolding, was, okay, I started creating these Quizlet sets for my learners and giving them the link. And the task is, okay, revise the vocabulary using the set. And revise is a hazy task, because you could go and do all of these tasks, for example, or you can go and do only one of them, for example, flashcards. And we do have a paid account, so I see very complete statistics of who did what. And again, there is this question of scaffolding, because even when I ask them to go and revise on Quizlet, I can still see that the learners stick to the first one or two activity types and do not venture into the other ones. So again, I realized that even a specific task like this, I have to make it even more specific if I want to widen their horizons. And so I started asking, okay, this time, revise this set, use the interactive test. mode. This time, revise the set, use the gravity mode. And again, this helps me basically just demonstrate the range of tools at their disposal, because unless this is built into the curriculum, they just don't do that. And once they've seen it, if they like it, they will start doing it. If not, that's fine. And another type of activity that I set for my learners, I want to show it to you because I really feel that it also kind of promotes good learning habits. It's actually the tool that I've developed myself. Katerina told you about it at the beginning, called Wizard. And what it does is it creates, if you have a YouTube video that has subtitles, it will create interactive gap fills where the learners will be able to listen to bits of the video and type in what's missing in the gap. So basically right now, for instance, we're talking about study strategies. So I went to YouTube and I typed polyglot advice, and in order to find videos with subtitles, I added comma space CC, and now all the videos that I've got here are with subtitles, and I can open one of them and copy the link. Once I've got the link, I go to Wizard and open the Train with Your Video tab and insert my link and click on Create Quizzes. And what I'll see here is, so our filters will find examples of past simple in this video, or comparative adjectives, or present perfect, and a long list of quizzes, and each quiz looks like this here. So excerpts from the subtitles, and you can click on the line, listen to that line, and type in an example of present perfect in this case, right? And the reason why I think it promotes is that the list of the quizzes is insanely long, right? And the learners can't always stick with the first one. Here, they have to go and choose, and in order to choose, they have to start analyzing. Okay, which grammar structures are more important for me? What mistakes that I make are fossilized, and start picking those ones. And so basically, the type of and the second half of the task will always be to watch part of the video, and again maybe mark in the spreadsheet what part you watched. So for example, here they had 7 extracts from the same interview. They first trained bottom-up processing with the quizzes of their choice, and then they had the choice of what part of the interview they want to watch. So again, a little bit of learner choice, and which is good, as we've just talked about. Of course, these are just the tools and strategies that I, as a teacher, feel are important. You will feel that other tools and strategies are important, but I just the important thing here is just to keep in mind the 2 things, like the choice, given some kind of choice, and a variety, and scaffolding here. So whenever I feel that they really need to try something out, I really can't assume that they will here, because they don't. Okay, the next thing, we still have some time. I won't tell you. So the link to the quiz is here in the chat box. No, not working. Okay. Right. So let's move on. So then this next thing. Look at this board. It's not my board. I wish my handwriting was that good. what part of the lesson do you think this is? So again, at what part of the lesson would we see this word? What stage? The end, yeah. So delayed feedback. There is a lot of delayed feedback. So probably there has been some kind of extended speaking activity, and the teacher probably wrote down quite a lot of language, and the learners and the teacher went through this language after the task, right? So, okay, what will happen with this board at the end of the lesson? What do you think? What normally happens with all this language at the end of the lesson? Well, yeah, so they either take a photo or they don't even take a photo, and all of that kind of gets wiped out. And so I can see a problem with that, right? So even if they take a photo, we remember the study strategies that we talked about, and so effective vocabulary revision involves retrieval, right? If I take a photo, then there is no retrieval. I can look at the photo, but it doesn't really tell me whether I remember this or not. Teacher takes a photo and puts the vocabulary on Quizlet. This works in theory, but in reality, you have 6 groups, and you don't have the time to do this, really, right? And so I approach feedback differently for these reasons, and I also have all the feedback in the Google spreadsheet. So I'm very fortunate to have a projector in the classroom, and sometimes I don't have the projector, but I have a smaller group, and I can show them my laptop, right? So, and you can see that, so the delayed feedback is in column A. Why do you think I have 2 columns? Why not just 1 column? Why 2 columns? Any ideas? Yeah, so there is the question and the correct option, and the reason we have 2 columns is that they can cover the second column and revise. So basically, so they can this when I have 2 columns, this promotes retrieval, right? And some of my learners, again, what I've noticed they do is that they copy the contents of this tab into their individual tabs, and they practice there, for example. And about once a month, I actually do the following thing. I copy the whole thing, and I go into Quizlet, and there, if you can really create in a couple of clicks a revision activity. If you based on the data that you have in Excel or in a Google spreadsheet. So here I type on create, I click on create, and I see the following screen, and you can see here the title, and then right below the title, import from Word, Excel, Google spreadsheets, and so on. And when I click on that, I get this simple window. I just paste what I just copied from from my Excel, and I immediately have this questions and answers set, and I can edit it. I can delete something. I can swap the columns actually if needed, and all I need to do next is just to give it a name, and send the learners a link, right? So again, this promotes, I think, good study habits, because you have to revise the feedback that you got. You can't just look at the pictures, you can't forget about it, just wipe it out and say goodbye to it. You really have to somehow incorporate it into your work, into your studies. And the last thing I want to show you is a kind of a story of failure. So at some point with my teens, like 5 years ago maybe, I had a very good experience teaching them, getting them to write something. So they read books about once 2 months, and they wrote reviews, and they hated writing them. And they just wrote them, and they handed it in to me, and I marked good and bad language there, and they corrected some of it in class, like all the usual writing things, and they really hated the whole process. And I changed something, and it really worked. So we started posting them on their VK group, and which immediately took away this, because when you post it there, it's editable. There is a chance of, again, achieving a perfect writing piece, and because they it's a kind of nice product, and not a piece of paper that's completely covered in my writing, that immediately made it more more motivating. Another thing that made it motivating was that they actually now wrote for each other, and they had this sense of audience, which is really good. And another thing that made it motivating was that I changed the task. I now told them that, okay, if you have a mystery book and you want to give it 5 stars, go to Amazon.com and find another mystery book. Look at reviews that give it 5 stars, and use an annotating tool, highlighting the expressions that you could reuse in your own writing. And this is what they did, and in the end, this is what they were producing. So a piece of writing on vk.com where they which they could improve after feedback, right? And where they could show off some of the language that they just researched for this piece of writing. And in class, we edited it in the class, and at the end we had a really, really beautiful piece of writing that was maybe like above their level, and something that they could be proud about, right? So this is a success story, and just about a couple of months ago, I had a failure story. So I started doing the same with my adult learners. So there was another tab where they would write their assignments, and again, it was good in terms of they had the sense of audience, and it was a portfolio of work that they were building up. But I was adding comments to the cells, and I assumed that they would go back and edit their work. And again, this did not happen. And again, I'm just telling you this story just to exemplify one more time, like, the importance of scaffolding. I'm pretty sure that if I wrote in the homework tab, okay, go and analyze. So you now got feedback, go and analyze, right? Then they would go and do that, right? So I really have to, like, one thing that I want to leave you with is I really have to think what about the tasks that are set, and I really have to think what a successful and efficient learner would do about this task, about different aspects, and maybe try to break it down for my learners and make sure that they and make sure that they can tick off at these steps. So I still have a long way to go, as you can see. Right, so 2 minutes for questions, I'm afraid. I give feedback through comments, and also I give feedback in the class, right? And in the class, they improve their work, and I hope that after they looked at it in class, they would go back to their work in the spreadsheet, and kind of polish it up to have a nice, a nice final draft. But I found that they didn't. And one thing that I really ask you to do is, there is this, I really want your feedback, guys. So I'm posting a link if you want to write what you liked, what you don't like about this talk, and any questions that you have. I will be very happy to continue talking about it there. I can't cheat, but basically, if it's low stakes, if I do not give them a mark based on that, then what's the point of cheating, really? I had a learner who completely ignored the whole thing, and you might have noticed here he just had an empty column. That was fine. So we'll be really, really grateful for individual classes. I'm not sure if I was teaching individual learners, I might create some kind of space, shared space, where they could at least share some resources they found, kind of try and create this sense of community, even if they don't meet each other. Okay, thank you.